10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power and liftoff. Go Falcon, go GPS 39.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Chamber pressure nominal.
At T plus 30 seconds and counting, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Now in just a few moments, we'll be throttling down the engines in preparation for Max Q, which stands for Maximum Aerodynamic Pressure.
Falcon 9 power and telemetry are nominal.
And good call out there for nominal telemetry. Max Q is the point at which the rocket experiences the greatest amount of stress as it ascends through the Earth's atmosphere. Now the vehicle is also pitching downrange.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
When the vehicle is pitching downrange to go from vertical to horizontal, the first stage is performing a maneuver known as a gravity turn. Now the booster does this by gimbaling its engines very slightly so that the vehicle slowly becomes
Max
horizontal.
Q.
And there's that call out for Max Q. Now the rocket typically needs to go 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid being pulled back down to Earth and get into orbit. And you can track our progress to orbit by watching the left corner of your display that's showing the vehicle's velocity and altitude. Now,
MVAC, chill.
Now coming up next, we're going to have several events happening in rapid succession, and we should hear all of these called out by Mission Control, starting with main engine cutoff, or MECO, then stage separation, and then SES-1. MECO is where we shut down all 9 M1D engines on the first stage, followed by stage separation, which is where the first and second stages of Falcon separate from one another, and second engine start 1, or SES-1, is when we light the MVAC engine on the second stage for the first time. So keep an eye out for these events happening back-to-back just about 20 seconds from now.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
And there we heard confirmation of that series of events, which again were MECO, followed by stage separation, and then SES-1. Now coming up shortly will be fairing separation. Once the vehicle reaches the vacuum of space, the payload fairings are...
Both vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
And good call out there. Once the vehicle reaches the vacuum of space, the payload fairings are no longer needed and will be jettisoned away. And as mentioned earlier, we'll be attempting to retrieve these fairing halves again once they fall back to Earth. As a reminder, both fairing halves are flying for their second time tonight. We're expecting that call out for fairing separation in just under 10 seconds from now.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And there you have it, confirmation of fairing separation and a beautiful view of the GPS 39 satellite. Now, we're still in the first MVAC burn on the second stage, and this burn should last for another few minutes. Now, the next milestone coming up will be the first stage entry burn in about 2 minutes from now. Now, today, Falcon 9 is performing 2 burns in order to land. The first burn, known as the entry burn, will slow down the vehicle before hitting the denser parts of the Earth's atmosphere. And without this burn, we'd only be using the atmospheric drag to slow down Falcon 9, which would add extra stress to the vehicle. Following that entry burn, shortly thereafter, the booster will initiate the landing burn, which will slow the vehicle down before touching down on our drone ship. Now, when Falcon 9 fires up the center M1D engine for re-entry, the vehicle will be flying through Merlin's exhaust, which deposits a layer of soot onto the vehicle's surface. As a given booster becomes more and more flight proven, that soot layer will build up more and more on the surface of the rocket.
Both vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
Now, as the booster is descending back to Earth, Falcon 9 will be using its 4 titanium hypersonic grid fins positioned near the top of the first stage to steer the vehicle towards its landing point. And from time to time, when the booster is on screen, you may also see white puffs coming from the booster, and those are cold nitrogen gas bursts, which will help with attitude control. And we've got about 30 seconds until that entry burn starts. And in addition to the camera view lighting up, you can also follow the relight of the engines via the graphics at the bottom of your screen. Should be hearing that call out for entry burn in just about 5 seconds from now.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there's confirmation of entry burn startup on the Falcon 9 first stage. Now, this burn is set to last about 30 seconds and again is slowing down the vehicle in preparation for its final burn and landing.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And there's confirmation of entry burn shutdown of the Falcon 9 booster on the left-hand side of your screen. Now, next up for that booster will be...
Both vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
Good call out there. Now, next up for the booster will be its landing burn, and we'll be attempting to recover this booster on our drone ship, a shortfall of Gravitas, which is currently stationed in the Atlantic Ocean. Concurrently, we're also expecting shutdown of the second stage MVAC engine, which is known as second engine cutoff, or SECO-1. And we're expecting that SECO-1 callout to occur just a few moments before that landing burn starts.
Stage 2 has entered terminal guidance.
Stage 1 transonic.
Another series of nominal callouts for both the Falcon 9 first stage and the second stage.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
We should be hearing that callout for SECO-1 of the MVAC engine in just a few moments from now.
MVAC shutdown. Stage 1 landing burn.
And there we heard confirmation of MVAC shutdown of the second stage engine on the right-hand side of your screen, and landing burn startup of the booster.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Landing leg deployed. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And awesome news there, confirmation of the Falcon 9 booster on our drone ship, a shortfall of Gravitas. Now, we also heard confirmation of good orbit. A good orbit means that we've got the vehicle into the trajectory we need leading up to SES-2 without needing to perform any additional engine burns or corrections. Now, as a reminder for the Falcon 9 booster, this was the 5th flight for this booster tonight. And back in space, the second stage is continuing its mission to deliver the GPS III SV09 satellite to orbit. The next major milestone will be a second startup of the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage, referred to as SES-2. And that is coming up at about the T+1 hour and 3-minute mark. So we'll be taking a break, and we'll be back just before SES-2. In the meantime, enjoy the views and the space jams.
there and look at a rocket from Mars, and you just boggle the mind. And the technology caught up, didn't it?
Welcome back to our live coverage of the GPS III-09 mission. It's been a great launch and overall mission so far. We had an on-time liftoff at 11:53 p.m. Eastern Time from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida and launched and recovered the first stage for its 5th time on our drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas in the Atlantic Ocean. The MVAC engine on the second stage then ignited just a couple minutes after liftoff, and its burn lasted just under 5 minutes, propelling the second stage and our payload to orbit. Coming up next, we'll have the second startup of the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage, called out as SES-2. And we're expecting to hear that call out in just about 50 seconds from now. Now, as a reminder, this is the second and final burn of the MVAC engine prior to payload deployment. And we've got some spectacular views of Earth in the background, with the spacecraft currently passing south of Australia. We're expecting to hear that call out for SES-2 in just about 13 seconds from now.
MVAC ignition.
And there we have it, confirmation of SES-2. Now this burn is set to last about 1 minute, and we'll get the payload into the proper orbit for payload deployment. And after the second shutdown of the Merlin vacuum engine, we're going to take another break before the most important milestone of our mission, payload deployment. We should be hearing the call out for SECO-2 in just a few moments.
MVAC shutdown.
As you heard and saw, there's SECO-2 indicating shutdown of the MVAC engine and the final burn before spacecraft separation. Coming up next, we'll be having our payload deployment at the T+1 hour and 29-minute mark. So stick around, listen to some space jams, and we'll see you back here in about 23 minutes.
We sat there, 25th century AD. We sat there and looked at a rocket from Mars, and you just boggled the mind. And the technology caught up, didn't it?
Welcome back again to our live coverage of the GPS III-09 mission. Before the break, we saw the second burn of the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage, which lasted about a minute before shutdown. Following that, we received confirmation that the vehicle was placed into a good orbit. And now we've got an amazing view of the GPS III-09 payload as it is currently over the Pacific Ocean west of Mexico. We're now waiting for payload deployment, coming up at the T plus 1 hour, 29 minute, and 19 second mark. Now, as a reminder, tonight's payload is GPS III-09. The GPS III SV09 satellite is specially named in honor of Colonel Ellison Onizuka. Onizuka was a flight test engineer in the U.S. Air Force and flew on Space Shuttle Discovery, STS-51C, in 1985. Tragically, 1 year later, he served as mission specialist for STS-51L on Space Shuttle Challenger, which broke up 73 seconds into flight. Now, after tonight's mission, 9 of the 10 GPS-3 satellites will have been launched, with Falcon 9 launching all but one of them. And we should be hearing that call out for payload deployment in just a couple moments.
Payload deploy confirmed.
And there you have it, successful deployment of the GPS III-9 satellite. And with successful deployment, we'll be bringing tonight's live mission coverage to a close. We'd like to thank the United States Space Force for entrusting us with today's mission, as well as the Range and FAA for their support. And if you're interested in more launch coverage, head on over to spacex.com/launches for the most up-to-date information. And when you're there, check out our departure board with all the details about our upcoming missions. And of course, remember to follow @SpaceX on X for more updates. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon.